Welcome back to another episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast. I am your host, Randolph Love III, and we call it the Entreprenudist Podcast because it is the place for real entrepreneurs and business owners to bear it all. Today, we do have another special guest that has no problem with sharing with you, his development and what he's doing and how he and his company could potentially help you. And we're definitely going to get into it. Just so you know, this episode is brought to you by Shield Wolf Strongholds, a wealth protection company. If you need trust, if you need life insurance, if you need a life, business, and financial coach, reach out to shieldwolfstrong.com. Please tell people who you are and what do you do.
Well, Randolph, first of all, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I heard a lot of great things. And so when we bumped into each other online, digitally, I thought, wow, I get to be here. And that was exciting. So to answer your question, my name is Tommy Whitehead. I'm a licensed contractor in the state of Florida. I work on construction projects, everything from kitchens and baths to disaster renovations, all the way up to working on some affordable housing projects. So I'm kind of all over the space in the construction hemisphere. I also have the distinction of being one of 50 LGBT BEs, that's business enterprises, in the country in the construction industry. And what does that mean? It means it's an LGBT-owned business. So diversity is big to me.
Absolutely. And that's definitely something that I want to get into as we get into our conversation, because you did something so powerful. When I put out the message that I was looking for people to talk to on my podcast, you reached out immediately and you sent like a one sheet breaking down a lot of interesting things about you and your company. I want to talk about that and how you ended up getting to that level of that's a high level of contacting somebody. I want to see how you ended up getting there. How long have you been doing what you're doing now in the restoration industry?
So in construction, I've been there for about 10 years. Before that, I was actually director of finance and accounting. So quite the change in career path.
You went from building people's being the architecture of their financial portfolio to now building their their houses and getting everything the way they want it to be. Is there nothing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Reach out and ask for advice to people. There's no shame in looking at professionals in your industry that have already done it, that have already fallen on their butt. Ask them, because they are most of the time happy to tell you how to avoid the mistakes they made.
So what you've discovered is ask soon and fast when you're encountering something new and need some help or advice.
Absolutely. There's professionals for everything out there. And most of the time, it's free advice. And when it's not free advice, it's usually 10 times more valuable than what you'll pay them for it. And that might be accountants, that might be attorneys, that might be individuals in the trades themselves. There is no shame in saying, hey, you know what? I don't know this, but I will figure it out if you explain it to me.
Yes, sir. I definitely completely agree with what you're saying, because I'm that guy. If I walk into a grocery store and I'm looking for something, any type of store, and I don't know exactly where it is, as soon as I walk in, I'm asking somebody who works at that store where to find it. That's their specialized knowledge. I don't know what else they're good at, but when it comes to that store, they have specialized knowledge of where the products are and how to get there. Whereas you have some people, they'll walk around aimlessly through a store for 20, 30 plus minutes looking for something that they could have asked somebody right then and it would have sent them right there. Have you always been like that, seeing the value of reaching out to people who already know what you're trying to do?
I've always been the kid that says, you know what, I'll figure it out myself. And now I'm, the adult that says, I will figure it out myself, but there's no shame in asking for a little help along the way. I never just throw my problems on the wall and expect everybody to solve them. I always take a shot at it, but I usually can solve a little bit of the problem and know where I'm lacking information. And when I lack information, I said, all right, that's when I got to take a minute and I got to check with somebody else. And it's a humbling type experience as an entrepreneur to admit that you have a great idea, but you may not know how to take it all the way to fruition. That's okay. We all
Mm,
go through this. We all need to
yes, sir.
ask for this help. We can't be experts at everything. I was reading a book and it came up with Henry Ford. Somebody called Henry Ford an idiot and because he didn't know certain facts or figures. Well, Henry Ford says, why do I need to waste my brain power with the facts and figures when I can find that answer in 5 minutes by calling a person in that industry? It's
Absolutely. I know
phenomenal.
that. Yeah, I think he was suing a newspaper, right? And
Yes.
they kept
Yes.
trying to disparage him because he only had an eighth grade education, which
Yeah.
a lot of people, which the first person that I heard that story through was Napoleon Hill, and a lot of people don't understand that education means to draw out. If you're educated, that means you're able to draw out and accomplish your goals, utilizing other people without imposing on their rights. And to your point, Henry Ford was like, listen, I'm not an idiot when it comes to specialized knowledge. I can reach out to people who know these things. Why do I have to know these things when I can push this button on my desk and anybody can come and give it? And when I heard that account, I think they said the
Yeah.
courtroom got quiet.
Uh-huh. Because it's not wrong. There are experts.
Hmm.
We're in a digital age now. It's not like, when you and I were growing up and Google wasn't even invented yet, and we had a
Hmm.
hard time finding things. Now it's as easy as asking Google or an AI program, hey, can you answer this question for me? Can you help me with this? Can you do this? Information is so easy to access. So why am I going to remember when Henry Ford was born? That's not really going to be
Hmm.
relevant. I don't use that every day, but I can right now find out when Henry Ford was born just by typing it in my phone. I can get access to that information. So I
Oh
remember
yeah,
the stuff that's useful to me day to day, but the minutia I leave alone for other people to answer or to look up later when I need it.
absolutely. They say if you want to know the value of generalized knowledge, look at the average salary of a college professor. That's the value of generalized knowledge, right? And,
Oh,
and you might even be on what Jeopardy, that show Jeopardy. You might
uh,
get called back to come back. That's what generalized knowledge, but specialized knowledge gets you to that next level. And once again, I truly believe all truths are parallel. If you look at a doctor and a specialist, right? Your primary care physician is usually considered a general person, to where they can answer a whole bunch of they know a little bit about everything as it relates to your health. But once it gets to a point to where it's something very specific about a specific thing, that's when they send you to the specialist. And what I tell people is that both of those doctors went to the same medical school. Both
mhm.
of those doctors had to do the same residency, but one of those doctors decided to focus on one thing, and the other doctor decided to focus on a little bit about everything. And it seems counterintuitive. The one that focused on one thing, it seems like you have to pay a higher copay for that one. It seems like that person makes a lot more money
They
by
do.
just focusing on one thing, and it seems counterintuitive. Uh, do you not remember? Because you said when you were younger that wasn't your thing. You wanted to do it all yourself, but then you realize it's better to ask. Do you not remember that specific time in your life that made you get that? Was it not a special book or a special conversation that made you realize that, or a special situation?
I think it was just life experience. As I mentioned before, I was a director of finance and accounting before I got into construction. And
Hmm.
economic tides changed here in the state of Florida in the hospitality industry, and so an opportunity presented itself. I think when I got into construction, I realized, oh, I'm good with finance, I'm good with accounting, I'm good with project management. I can manage people. I need to learn a little bit more about construction. I think that was the time where I said, you know what? When they use a term that I don't understand, I need to ask. And I have never,
Mm.
ever been made fun of when I was learning. Never was I made fun of if I didn't know a term, if I didn't know what this meant or that meant. Um, and when I figured that out, that, hey, I just can't stand around acting like I know what I meant or knew what they said. I have to ask. And I would find there more often than not, if I asked for an explanation on some term I didn't understand, that at least two or three other people in the room, including people with more experience than I, didn't know what that term meant either. It might have been a regional word or lingo, or somebody's just using the wrong word altogether. And it was just fascinating to realize that, most people just are afraid of being judged about being ignorant. We're all ignorant in something. I mean, if you want to ask me about Chinese currency manipulation, I'm not going to be able to tell you about that. I'm not going to be able to tell you about the lunar landing. I'm not going to be able to tell you about certain things. That's okay. We have to get past that discomfort or that fear of being judged for not knowing something, because the retribution for answering something you do not know will be much more severe than the fear of uh, asking somebody to respond to something you do not understand.
Oh yeah, and there are a lot of fears that keep people back from their true potential. One being fear of death, one being fear of not being able to find love, but the other is fear of criticism. And yes, that stops a lot of people from doing what they want to do. Because to your point, I've been a part of a bunch of groups on Facebook, and those contractor groups, oh my God, don't mess around and ask a question that
Oh
they
yeah,
feel like you should know. Oh yeah, they coming at you. And for
they
me,
do.
it was fun to me. Like I don't know. I used to enjoy it. Like I would ask, what I call, stupid questions. There are no stupid questions, but I would ask a stupid question and they would come after me, right? They would destroy me in the comments. But what I found was that out of all of those people destroying me in the comments, you would have some very profound information shared in the comments, and then I would make some good friends inside my private messages, to where they would reach out. They would see how I'm handling all the criticism. They'll see people coming after me, and then they'll reach out to me inside of my DMs and be like, "Hey, this is the answer. If you need anything else, please feel free to reach out to me." Because one of the things that you get told, at least I was told growing up, is information is worth what you paid for it. So that was a way for them saying free information isn't worth anything. But you and I, along with a lot of other enlightened people, have discovered that usually the people who really know what they're talking about, they don't mind giving you free information. So when you transition from the financial field to the construction field, where of course you learn that you're able to ask as many questions as you want. Is there nothing else that you learned in finance that you were able to transition to what you do now?
I would say budget management. I mean, that seems a little off
Mm.
or a little obvious. That's translated. Just today, I was dealing with an insurance claim, and insurance claims can get very complex because not only is there money coming from the insurance agency or from the carrier, that check usually doesn't go to the homeowner. It usually goes to a mortgage company, and then the
Mhm.
insurance company holds back money, the mortgage company holds back money, and I'm on the end of the pike just trying to finish somebody's house, and I have two different people saying, oh, you got to finish the house 100%, or we're not releasing the rest of the payments, even though they haven't even released half of the money yet because of all their stipulations. So it gets confusing. It's confusing to a homeowner. It's confusing to a contractor. Contractors don't want to do restoration repair unless they have a specialty in it, because the complexities of dealing with the insurance and ensuring that you're paid fairly and promptly is difficult. Now, I parlayed my comfort level with attorneys, with accountants, with insurance professionals into the ability to quickly talk to these insurance adjusters, these insurance carriers, explain the situation. And when they come back at me, I can say, well, that doesn't make sense because, and I outline the facts. No arguments, no anger, no emotion in it. Here's simple facts of this is what was distributed, this is what has to be paid, this is how this goes, and this is how it helps your client. And they're most of the time they're like, oh, okay, we'll do that. And that's helped. Just having that financial background's helped substantially, just for that element alone. Budgets, timelines, negotiations, a lot of that in the finance background is carried over, especially into construction. So I kind of had a leg up, whereas a lot of tradespeople learn their trade and they're the best drywallers around and they can manage a construction site, but they don't know anything about large scale material discounts. They don't know about net invoicing terms or factoring or cash flow or any of those other things that kill most contracting businesses. They just focus on their trade. So they need to go out and get help in a different area than I would need to go out and get help. But we have the same common issue is we can't learn it all. We got to have help to do it.
Absolutely. You need a team. And I like that you mentioned the budgeting and all of that, because every business, depending on the business, there are probably some smaller departments, but primarily you have sales and marketing. Then you have admin and operations, and sometimes and then you have finance, and sometimes people have their operations with the admin, and some people have their operations with the finance. But those are the three main departments. And as you stated, most construction companies go out of business within the first 5 years, and a lot of it has to do with that budgeting. So when you are dealing with all of these different people, with these materials, with these subs, prices are going up. How do you manage that? Cost of everything is going up. How do you manage? All right. How do you navigate around that to still stay profitable and still stay in business with the price of everything being, it seems to me, so unreasonable?
It can be. So let's go back to the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, when we had real supply shortages. I had an agreed to price point, and it was a large corporate client, and they don't really care that there's price changes. That's what it is. So I would literally hold up a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 renovation over some wire shelves that I couldn't locate. And so the normal price point, a couple dollars a linear foot, that's cool. I couldn't find it for cheaper than $15 a linear foot. So I'm putting out hundreds of dollars of extra on a particular house. But what choice do I have? Do I continue to hold an open receivable for 60 days while I'm waiting for parts to come in? Or do I pay an extra $300, $400, $500 out of pocket so that I can close this job today? So some instances, you eat the cost. That's the cost of doing business. And we were in a volatile supply market that we haven't seen before, at least not in that aggressive nature. So sometimes you eat the cost. Sometimes the client is understanding, especially if you have a material allowance where, this is your material allowance. And if the material costs go up, you have to pay extra if you go past that allowance. So it really depends on how the bidding's done. And so you ask, how do I handle that? Sometimes painfully. Sometimes you eat it. Sometimes it is the greater good. So I'm not going to hit the margin I desired, but I need to hit the cash flow. I need to get the job closed. I need to deliver to my promises. And if I failed to anticipate lumber skyrocketing by 30, 40, 50%, then sometimes you eat that. Now, if it's a substantial job where lumber is a high factor, then I would go back to the client and say, hey, this is a reframe of a house. We bid it in June. It's December after permits are issued. The lumber price has doubled. We have to renegotiate what's going on. So it's a delicate matter. And sometimes it can become a legal one on large scales, but most of the time, most clients have been okay. They're like, all right, we understand this is increased. We can handle this much difference. And then some clients are like, no, that's the price you contracted with. That's the price I pay. And they're not completely incorrect, at least by the terms of the contract. So the best way to do that, if you expect a long-term project or material fluctuations, is probably to allow for some type of allowance. So, install ceramic tile. We give you an allowance of 99 cents to $3 to select a tile that you like. And if you find a tile that's $3.99, or by the time we buy that tile, if it's $3.99, then the client's on the hook for an extra 99 cents if they still want that tile. Or they can select something less expensive or less in demand so that it decreases the price point.
Ah, man, so that's something powerful, because when I heard you say that agree to price point, that's the first time I heard that phrase. And it sounds like what you're saying is, in the agreement between you and the customer, you've agreed to what the full job is going to cost, which includes what the materials should cost. However, if we have those events to where the cost of materials spike, if you have that agree to price point clause inside of your agreement, that means that the customer can still hold you to that agreed upon material price, even though you is no way for you to get it to there.
That is correct with certain clients, and I've been in that situation before. Luckily, not to a huge detriment. One client that comes to mind is Zillow used to do its own renovations. I did a lot of work for Zillow in the Tampa market. Now, when prices changed drastically, I went to them as a valued construction partner, and they really looked at their contractors as partners, not just as vendors. And I went to them and said, you only have X number in the budget. It costs Y just to buy this, which is more expensive than you even have for labor and materials. And it's costing more based on the change in the market. Most clients are very receptive to that. But could they have said, yes, we understand that, but you contracted for this price point. That's what you accepted on. They could have said that, and they could have been held their guns. And some clients do that.
So it sounds like what because I'm always trying to look for the value of what somebody can grab from a professional like you having a conversation with me. And it sounds like what you're saying is uh your agreements, people listening to this that do what you do, your agreement should always include a caveat that cost of materials can change and set what that allowance is. And if anything goes outside of that allowance, you can point to those words in that agreement to let the customer know, say, hey, I didn't want this to happen. Of course, you didn't want this to happen, but per this allowance, I can't find materials inside of this, and therefore it's a different price. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. You got to let the client know what's going on. Things change. It's beyond your control.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes I want to start working on a project this month. Well, I have one permit that's taken 5 months to get. Things have changed in 5 months. 5 months, that's almost half
Wow.
a year. I have some construction projects where insurance payments took 5 months, permits took 4 months. It was 9 months before we were able to start construction. Things change, prices change. So have your
Oh,
contract have those variances and allowances in there, unless, and here's the unless you're one of those contractors that has a bulk supply of something where you've paid your fixed price, it's not going to go up. So if you're an electrical contractor and you have 100,000 outlets sitting in your back room, the price of that outlet's not changing because as you work your way through your inventory, you already have paid that price. You know what your profit margin is on that. But if you're an on-demand contractor, which
mm-hmm.
most of us are, most contractors are on supply on demand, meaning when I'm building a house, I don't order the lumber until I'm ready for the lumber. I don't order the lumber 6 months early and let it sit there. But if you're on demand, then you need to
Mm-hmm.
allow for those allowances in each product category.
Oh, that's good. So, and I heard you mention permits, so because it sounds like if you can't get the permit in place soon enough, then of course inflation is going to do what inflation does, and materials companies are going to do what material companies do. Go up on price. Have you not discovered any clever ways to increase how fast a permit gets cleared?
So it starts with a good architect. I've worked with great architects. I've worked with not so good architects. Not so good architects miss things like, the plan might be sound, but all the little details are missing. And if a lot of details are missing, a plan reviewer at the county, at the city will review it, and then they'll issue a discrepancy or issue a clarification statement. They need to fix these items. Then you fix those items. Sometimes they send you back a new list of completely new items. Then you're back and forth, back and forth. And in
Mm.
the meantime, the contractor myself has to review it, or my permit tech has to review it. And then we have to communicate that back to the architect, and it gets crazy. So your first step is qualified, experienced architects that have been doing it for a while. Are you dealing with somebody that's going to take care of you and help you through the permit process? Because when you have an architect that takes the ball, I have a fantastic one. Shout out to Valerie with Red Brick, but she's fantastic, and she will deal directly with the municipality to answer the questions, and she rarely has clarifications come back on her plans. So it's faster when I use
Mm.
her. So you get your value on your payment. Now you can find cheaper plans or other architects around, and I know there are many many good ones. But I was using another agency that it was issue after issue after issue with clarifications coming back and forth, and the 2 week turnaround times for the architect, and that just delayed. It took so long that I can't use that architect anymore because of it. So you start with that. Then the next step is follow up on your schedule with the building department. You should be putting in a call once a week. Just want to check on the status of this. Do I have everything? Do you have everything? We recently had a permit application that we submitted to a municipality, and everything was good. And then all of a sudden they said, well, we never got your application, even though they charged our card. So then we put the application in again. So we put the application in again, and then the client calls and says, hey, I just checked to see on this permit, and they don't have your application. I said, we've done it twice now. So then we go back and look at it. Apparently, the municipality claims that they sent us a message saying, we don't accept anything digitally. We need it all in paper. There was no evidence, no record of them. So we just thought everything was going well, and so we had to contact them again, and they wanted paper signatures, hard copies of everything, no electronic or digital. Means the architect had to wet stamp. They had to sign it with a pen. Couldn't be copied, couldn't be printed, and then that had to be manually taken up to the municipality and turned into the building department there. If the client wouldn't have happened to be in the area checking on that, that would have been a problem. If we didn't follow up every week to see what was going on, those would have been a problem. So follow up with your building department is important too. And then never go in there with an attitude. Never go in there. These are government workers that don't have to usually worry about any kind of customer service score. If people don't like what you say, they stop tuning into your show. If people don't like my customer service reviews, they don't buy my product. You have to go to the government. If you don't like them, you still have to go to them. So what is it going to do? You're not going to really get around them. You kind of have to be nice and play it. It's their ball field, and you're just welcome to be there.
Man, you hit a nail on the head. And just to reiterate, it sounds like if somebody wants to make sure that their permanents get taken care of as quick as possible, right? You're going to start out with a good architect. An architect that's going to make sure the plans are in a place to where they do not have to consistently, the building department isn't going to be consistently reaching out to you for clarifications. And if possible, have an architect that's willing to do those clarifications directly with the building departments of whatever city you're in. You also have weekly follow-ups because there could be something wrong, and or maybe they didn't get what they should have gotten, even though they charged you, right? You want to know sooner than later if there's an issue, so that weekly follow-ups are going to help you. And no attitude, because you have to deal with these people. And I do a lot of traveling, and when I tell you, the people who seem to know the most that you have to deal with them, and they can almost talk to you any way they want, is the people at that airport check-in counter. Oh my God. I just be sitting there, I just be smiling, and they want it, they want you to go off. That's what it be seeming like, because a lot of times I observe, it's rare that I find myself in those situations, because I try to there's certain things that I do to try to keep my energy open and positive, and usually most people feel that energy and they reciprocate, and then it's some people where that energy rubs them the wrong way, and they want to try to see if they can break my positive attitude, right? So most of the times I don't deal with a lot of those issues unless I encounter that person who wants to try to break my positivity. It's going to be tough, but they're going to try. But when I be observing, it really do seem like they want you to go crazy. And then of course, when you go crazy, now you're banned from that airline, right? And to your point, if you go off on them, now all of a sudden they're going to need clarification. Possibly they're going to need clarification about everything. All of your permits are going to take forever and ever and ever. So if somebody is working with a contracting company, and of course we're not going to, this podcast isn't to say anything bad about any other competitors or anything, but how does somebody know if it's not just the built the permit department that's causing the holdup, or is their construction company not submitting the right paperwork? Is there no way for nobody to know?
There actually is. So first of all, ask your contractor. That's where you start with. You want to have good faith with the person you contracted with. Hey, what's going on with this? Can you give me a little bit of detail? Don't expect your contractor to immediately respond the same day to a building department comment. Everybody has a queue. It takes a few days to get anything processed. It's so if you ask your contractor, they may not have the answer for you right away, but they'll get it for you. Now, if you want to verify what your contractor's saying, you can call your local building department. Hey, I just want to call and get the status of this permit. What's going on? But don't ever treat it as I gotcha moment when you call your contractor back. Because sometimes it's nothing to do. Like I said, we checked up on a permit. We did everything right. And the client says, hey, I don't see this permit that's been submitted. They checked on us. Well, I'm glad they checked on us because we would have waited another week before we did our status call. We did everything right. It's the building department that made a mistake. So it's okay to call the building department and say, hey, what's going on with this? When is this inspection scheduled? When is this permit issue? What's the status on it? That's fine. However, you hired a professional to do a job. So you have to be careful that you don't interfere, because by you calling the permit technician, by the building department, and giving them information which may not be correct, which you may interpret to be correct, but you're speaking in the incorrect terminology, could change the plan process. Well, what do you mean you're adding an extra AC unit? Yeah, I'm adding an extra AC unit to this. That's not on the plans. And all of a sudden you got stuff kicked back to you. Maybe they weren't adding an AC unit. Maybe it was a direct swap out. That's a difference. Installing a brand new AC unit for one that wasn't there to installing an AC unit that was there is completely different set of plans that you have to submit. So a homeowner misspeaking can cause an issue. So you do want to be careful as a homeowner or a business owner, if you're calling to check on a permit, that you know what you're talking about and trust your contractor. Now, if it's months and months go by and you're having issues, then you can feel free to reach out to the building department. You don't have to give them all the information. You just have to ask them, hey, here's my address. Here's my permit number. What's going on with the application? What needs to be done next? And then take that information to your contractor and you can say, hey, we checked in. We don't see this. We don't see that. Can you explain what's going on? And could there be a mistake? People like to come to contractors with I gotcha. You didn't get us. Most of the time, I know exactly what's happening. And yes, they're waiting on a response, but the response isn't from me. The response is from the architect that's taken several weeks. And the architect's on vacation. And so, no, they just see it as the contractor hasn't responded because the contractor's got the obligation to respond, even if the architect is supposed to write the revisions. So always approach your contractor or any business professional, any relationship. This is cross industry. Never go with somebody, I gotcha. Go with a question. Hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with this? Oh, I called, I asked, and I found this out. Is this not correct? If you go with that angle, you're not attacking anybody. You're asking and following up, and then you're holding them to their onus. And in my case, I would have said, yes, we submitted everything. Actually, when a client called me and says, hey, they don't see the building department permit, they weren't mad. They knew the municipality was difficult. I was irate. I called my tech. Hey, I know you did this. I saw you do this. I know it's done. Well, why are they not saying it? She's like, I don't know. She calls me right back. Yeah, we've submitted it twice. They still don't have it. And I'm going through them again. And I went up the poll. It's don't always treat people like they're immediately wrong and you're right. Just go at it as hey, we have a mutual problem we need to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's one thing, because and what you said, of course, is if anybody wants to make sure that the process is moving as swift as possible, first and foremost, have good faith and communication with your contractor. Exhaust that as much as possible. As long as this contractor is in communication with you, is responsive, is letting you know what's going on, then you should not break that line and go into the department unless it gets to the point to where you just want to check. And if you do check the building department and you do discover what looks to be a discrepancy, gather that information and then come back to your contractor, not like, aha, I got you, but hey, they're saying this. What do you think? and work in that collaborative mode.
You got it. If you start an adversarial relationship from the beginning before you've even got your permit issue, how do you think the rest of the construction process is going to go? And that's
Mm,
any vendor, anything. If you're an accountant and you're talking to your cleaner in the office cleaner, if you start an adversarial relationship with your brand new cleaner, how do you think that relationship's going to go?
uh-huh. It's not going to go well,
It's
and
not.
that's why I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Voss. Never split the difference. That's why I like some of the tactics that he says, because one of the things that Chris Voss says in his book is it when you are speaking with somebody, you say seems like, looks like, sounds like, right? So to use that example, let's say a customer is communicating with their contractor and it's taking it a long time for the permits to get issued and cleared. A customer can say something like, it seems like this department isn't doing the building department isn't doing their job correctly. And then that's when you did not aggressively attack your contractor.
Mm-hmm.
You're just saying, hey, I mean, I hired you, and I'm assuming if somebody hired a contractor, they did their research. I researched you, I hired you, I trust you, but the permits ain't not clearing. It seems like it must be something that the building department is doing. And that either gives the contractor an opportunity to go in deeper detail saying, well, actually, we're waiting on our architect. So it either gives the contractor a way to correct that person or say, yes, what you're saying is correct. But and then to that next step, if they do go directly to the building department and then they come back to their contractor, say, hey, it seems like they haven't heard from you. When I talked to them, it sounded like they've been waiting for you for a couple weeks. And once again, you did not come adversarially to your contractor. You just said what it seemed like, looked like, sounds like, and you give them an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to correct you.
I didn't know there was an author out there that had said something like that, but that's my exact communication style, especially dealing with crews. A statement might be, this doesn't meet the client's expectations. And the response is, you're calling my work crap? No, I didn't have a derogatory comment about your work at all. The
Mm-hmm.
client has an expectation of this, and this is what we need to do to get there. It's
Absolutely.
the same. It's the same thing with asking how you said it is. There's plenty of ways to get all the answers to your questions without coming out accusing people. You don't have to be right. You just have to get the solution to the problem.
Absolutely. And to that point, sometimes no matter what you say, people gonna think you're accusing them of something. So that's why I say.
Exactly.
So the best thing you can do is just it's all about intention. So I want to learn more. And you're going to be educating me, Tommy. And if I say anything wrong, abbreviation, all that, just let me know. How has it been differentiating yourself in the LGBT community when it comes to being a contractor? Because contractor is considered, like man's,
Yes.
and then the connotation, wrong or right or whatever is LGBT. We're not so it's not that. How
Yeah.
has that been with the industry that you're in and your personal lifestyle?
So I'll give you a highlight. I'm writing a book right now, and that's one of the topics I actually go over. And hopefully my editor doesn't yell at me. But the chapter title is "I'm Not Your Interior Designer." This is just one of the headings, just a little
Wow.
thing, because I am not an interior designer. I am not the person that selects your colors. I have clients, oh, would you go with this color taupe or that color yellow or that color? No, gray, go gray. I just go right here, the polo, go gray. I do not design things. I can execute a design. We can paint it fuchsia or purple or whatever other, and those are the same colors to me. It's weird. But
Mhm.
I said, so I'm not. So there is a stereotype. So I actually founded a nonprofit, a 501c3 in the state of Florida called the Pride Construction Coalition. And the idea behind that is to bring construction professionals into a safe environment to mix, mingle, network, and advocate for opportunities. Many people in construction can hide who they are. I did for a long time. I don't have a stereotypical perception of being an LGBT individual. And many times I'll meet with people and then I'll bring my husband into a conversation and say something, oh yeah, my husband does this. And I always get the statement, Tommy, don't take this the wrong way. And we don't care, but we had no idea that you had a husband. We had no idea that. I'm like, well, you didn't ask. I didn't ask. I don't assume that you're with a woman. I don't assume
Mhm.
you're with a man. We didn't talk about that. And so, yes, there are stereotypes. There are dangerous situations where people are so afraid to be who they are in construction. Now, like I said, I can hide who I am if I want to. You can't walk into a room, Randolph, and hide that you're a black man. You can't do
Not
that,
at
right?
all. Yeah.
It's out there. It is. Some LGBT individuals cannot hide who they are either. And that might be that they are masculine presenting female or feminine presenting male or whatever that might be, that they may not be able to hide that. So I wanted to stand up and say, hey, there's just a bunch of people. We're all people. We're all here to get stuff done. And they should feel safe in the workspace, just like you should feel safe in the workspace, just like I should feel safe in the workspace. And I always tell this story, there was a time in my career where people would ask, what'd you do this weekend? And the real answer was, oh, I was with my boyfriend. It's now my husband. I was with my boyfriend. We went to this great restaurant and saw a cool movie and we had a great time. And this is the unique stuff we did. But my answer to them was, oh, I went off the movie with friends
Mm.
because I was afraid that would be in our industry, that would be a challenge. So yes,
Mhm.
there are some still colleagues I have that are told, we don't care if you're gay, just don't tell the clients. That was this year.
Wow.
Somebody was told that. It still happens.
Mhm.
And so I decided, you know what? I am who I am. I'm going to be out there. I don't talk about your lifestyle. I don't talk about your religion. I don't go into that. I don't expect you to ask about mine. If you ask, I don't mind telling you, but I'm just here to get your job done. And as far as, not your typical contractor has been used, that phrase has been used multiple times to describe me because I'm not that. You imagine a 60-year-old grandpa coming into your house and telling you how you're wrong about everything. That's not my style. I work through a problem with you. What do you envision this space to look like? What do you want to accomplish? What's this? And if they're like, okay, well, we don't know about styles or colors, I could say, here's some base packages. But if you want anything more custom, let me get you with a designer. Let me get you with
Mm.
somebody that specializes in that trait. Because if you pick out black countertops with a pink wallpaper because I think it looks good and you're not going to be happy with it, I can't do anything. I'll provide what you expect me to do. So use a designer, let them visualize, let them talk you through current fashions and styles and trends in houses, and let them help you. So yeah, it's different. There's only, like I said, there's only 50 of us in the construction industry that have that business entity, that LGBT business entity certification nationwide. Not all of them are contractors. Some of them are plumbers. Some of them are electricians. So it's a very minority category, but I feel that's not because there aren't more of us out there. It's because a lot of us aren't comfortable to be who we are. And if you're not comfortable to be who you are, you're never going to feel safe. You're never going to be productive. You're never going to be happy. So I'm out here saying, hey, fellow professionals, if you want somebody to stand next to so you don't feel alone or scared or targeted, come hang out next to me because these people do not bother me. I don't get threatened.
Mm. LGBTBE. Uh,
Yes, sir.
and that's powerful. And I like how you started it off because it sounds like what you're saying is when people first hire you, and because you're very upfront about your accreditation with the LGBTBE, and so I'm assuming when people find you, they know what's going on to where it sounds like what you're saying is they assume all right, I just hired this contractor, so we're going to talk about colors, we're going to talk about
No,
styles, and meanwhile you're like, nah, I just build it.
no, no. Yeah. Don't come to me like this. You're getting the same package unless you have a designer specified. But you're right. So I don't hide it. I did hide it. I've even had people tell me, you might not want to put that on your website. Literally, I've had people say, I don't know. Uh, they're not wrong. It could steer some people away, but those people I probably want to be steered away.
Absolutely, they're not your
And
customers.
they're not my customers. And I service just as many, if not, well, I service more heterosexual couples and clients than I do homosexual couples or clients.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on my website. You can go to tomcosolutions.com. You can go to tommywhitehead.com and see my personal bio and everything. And it's on both the websites. There's
Mm-hmm.
pictures of my family, my husband, and everything on my personal website. There are news articles about the awards that I've won. The Tampa Bay Business Journal gave me an Outstanding Voice Award in the community during Pride Month last year. There's all
Mm.
kinds of things that showcase the Pride Construction Coalition, my volunteerism in Pride, and other LGBT initiatives. I don't hide it. But I'm just as proud when I worked with Treats for Troops and collected a bunch of treats to send overseas. That had nothing to do with the LGBT culture. It was a really good cause that I managed to do. I'm just as happy when I do a calendar shoot at a animal farm for somebody. I'm just equally philanthropic. I'm equally engaged in the community, but I don't hide who I am anymore. And if you don't like that, that's okay. That's fine. Then you could select another contractor that might not call you back or might not give you the service that you're looking for. But you have that choice. I'm not here to change your mind and judge you for that. You do what you do.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you are at that level of transparency because, first and foremost, it's not your business what I do in my bed. But that being said, right? If you were curious, I have a handsome husband, right? Right.
Yeah.
What was it? Because I heard you say at first you weren't comfortable with it. Do you not remember the nucleus, what made it to where you said, forget this? Not only am I comfortable with it, but I'm gonna put it on my bio on my website to where if you don't know, you're in the minority.
Yeah, so it was a long process, and it started with divorce from my wife, and it wasn't a sexuality thing; it was a compatibility issue. And we have a son together. He's actually, here in the house right now, doing some schoolwork, and
Mhm.
so very involved in his life. Um, Eventually, I dated, and men and women, and then I just found a guy that was like, wow, this personality is just it's totally different. And so then it was a process of coming out to a conservative family, and then they eventually accepted it. And conservative friends who accepted it are still lifelong friends. They're completely okay. And then it's like, okay, I'm out everywhere else in life personally. Uh, I don't want to hide at work anymore. Like, I'm going to get married to this guy. And what am I supposed to say? I'm not married. What happens when I wear my wedding ring around? Do they say, oh, you got married? No. Or who is she? What am I supposed to do at that point? So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to be who it is. It is what it
Mhm.
is. If I lose clients, I'll lose clients. If I lose a job, at that time I had a job, but now I own my own business for a while now. But if that's what it is, that's what it is. I'll deal with it. I'll move
Mhm.
past it. But I'm tired of having to hide what I did this weekend.
Mhm.
That I can't bring somebody that I feel scared to bring my partner, my husband, to a Christmas party for a holiday event, to a networking event. Like, there is no reason I should feel that way any more than you should feel any uncomfortable walking into any particular establishment, which not that long ago you wouldn't be able to,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So you shouldn't be in that spot. I shouldn't be in that spot. And I just said, enough is enough. And if the people don't like it, tough.
And that's powerful because once you overcome the psychological blocks, especially growing up in a conservative family,
Mhm.
then of course, like you say, the next stage is professional. So now that we talked about that personal side of it, I think a lot of times, even if people overcame the psychological block of potentially being ashamed of the people that they like and love, now once they overcome that, let's talk about the business, because I think a lot of people might feel like you said, they might lose business. But please, if you can correct any disparage, this at being that you're a part of the LGBTBE and all these other different, I'm assuming multiple other different societies related to
Mhm.
that, has it not increased your business?
Yes, I think it has. It's increased my business. People know that I'm a safe place to work, whether they're a member of my community or not. Um, they still are like, okay, well, he's cool. He doesn't care. He's going to come into our house. He's going to come into our biracial household and not care. My husband himself is black,
Mhm.
So they're going to come into this household. They're going to see I'm a single mom and they're not going to care. They're going to see we're a gay couple and they're not going to care. We're a lesbian couple, they're not going to care. So that has increased my business. What I think I take away from this the most is not only that it's increased my business, it's helped that I'm an equal and diverse employer. But I've helped other individuals, other LGBT individuals that were afraid. There's one black woman my age. She came to a presentation I was giving, and then she says, "I heard you about the LGBT background," and I said, "Yeah," and she says, "Well, I'm LGBT," and I said, "You family girl?" And she's like, "Yeah." And family is AKA, are you in the LGBT community? And she says, "Yeah." And I said, "Give me a hug." And she's like, "I was afraid to tell anybody, thinking it would hurt my business very badly," because she had come up in a very conservative environment that was almost violent. It was very, very almost cultish in how
Mm.
regressive that part was. So I said, "No, no, no." I said, "Do you know how many caterers are with the local gay chamber?" She's like, "No." "How many?" I said, "None." I said, "Do you know how
Mm.
many calls the local LGBT chamber gets for caterers?" She's like, "How many?" I said, "Apparently almost daily," when I'm talking to the people. Said, "You need to go get your certification. You need to not be scared. You have a partner now. You have a girlfriend now. You don't need to be scared about that. You're still a proud mom. You're still a good partner. And now you want to be a business professional? Well, go for it. Go for it." Her food's to die for, though. She's a caterer. It's incredible. Soul Food's insane. But it was kind of a proud moment to say that, hey, it's okay. Do what you do. You might lose a couple clients, but you're going to gain a lot more when people know that you're just who you are. And she's rocking it. She's doing pretty damn good now. And there's been several other businesses and owners that I've talked to, and I tell them this. I said, "Hey, be who you are and let the business come to you. It's not going to scare people off. And if
So
it does, you don't want to deal with those people anyways."
it sounds like you said that there are some set asides in the municipal, like cities and states, when it comes to LGBT, to where they essentially are the first considered when it comes to contracts. Is that what you just said?
I wouldn't say first considered, but they're minority set asides, which you're probably
Okay.
already familiar with.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So, like women owned businesses,
Okay, got
um,
it. Okay.
persons of color owned businesses. LGBT falls in that status too, because the LGBT community is stigmatized. And if you look at even capital invested in businesses, LGBT businesses are much less likely to receive any investments in capitals due to their LGBT status and biases of the community. The same stats apply to persons of color. The same stats apply to women that were a marginalized community and receive less opportunities. So sometimes there are set asides in different cities and states. Some corporations have set asides. So say like Target, for example, is an organization that has set asides where they're attempting to do more business with persons of colors and LGBT individuals because they realize that's part of their client base. So why not utilize part of their client base? Why not see the different perspectives? Why not utilize their experience and open up more of a client base? And then they
Mhm.
realize those businesses haven't traditionally had the opportunity. Now, listen, I'm sitting here with my white privilege talking to you, right? I know it's there. I get it, right? I came from a very poor background, so I didn't happen to be one of the families that came from a wealthy background. My family didn't have generational wealth. I'm trying to create that for my family going forward to break a cycle. But there are many of us, many of the community, especially the Black community, they never had that generational wealth until the 70s or 80s or 90s when they started, breaking out of that gap. And so all these set asides do is say, "Hey, we're going to give the business to anybody, but we're going to try to see if there's qualified individuals in this set aside that we can give it to first that maybe didn't have the opportunities that other people had earlier in life."
Yeah,
And that's what a set aside is.
yeah, and for people listening to us, yeah, I think for some people this is probably the first time that they heard the term set aside. And basically,
Mhm.
what you want to do if you're running a business, you want to look for local set asides, you want to look for state set asides, you want to look for federal, and it has a lot of times it has to do with your color, maybe your military history,
Mhm.
maybe your gender. And if you can do what it takes to qualify for these set asides, it not only does it increase your chances of getting contracts, sometimes very, very lucrative contracts, but it can
Mhm.
also put you in the running for contracts that they don't even make locally. That
Mhm.
they don't share publicly. That so a lot of these cities, states, and companies, they have like budgets of around anywhere from about $3,000 to $5,000, maybe a little more, maybe a little
Mhm.
less, to where you could, if they see that you qualify for a certain set aside and you're actively reaching with and engaging with them, they can give you a contract over the phone just like
Mhm.
that, without even having to put it out to the public for competitive bidding.
Exactly. And just to clarify one misconception, there's a big misconception out there. Oh, he only got the contract because he's black. She only got the contract because she's a woman. No, that is not it. They are qualified individuals that demonstrate an ability to fulfill a contract. These are
Mm,
professionals that can handle the contract. It just happens to be that they are professionals like other professionals that have the best bid and are more likely to set aside or more likely to be seen first. But that doesn't guarantee you. You don't just get the business because you're gay or because you're a woman. You don't. You still, they're not going to award me a missile defense contract. I've never built a missile. I flunked physics in high school. Just because I'm gay, they're not going to be like, oh, yeah, we're just going to give it to him. No, that is not how it works. And so that's a common misconception by people. You're still in the running if you don't qualify under any of those diversity statuses, as long as you're qualified. So it's the qualifications are meant to be people that maybe came from a background that didn't have the support. College education. The only reason I got a college education is because I took out loans and did it myself. My parents
mm.
didn't have the ability to do that, because we didn't come from a system of wealth.
And
And
I'm glad
so
you
other
made
individuals are the same thing.
that clarification, because yeah, what I just said could have came across as nah, we gonna get it. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter if you qualify for the set aside. If you can't do the job, it cancels that out. Tommy, is there not a question that I should have asked you that I didn't?
There's so many questions. We could go for hours, Randolph, hours, but we've got limited time. Minutes are
Yeah.
ticking on this clock.
Uh-huh.
Um, how about this? We're talking about construction, networking opportunities. How do you present
Mm.
yourself in the community?
Yes, sir. Tell me.
Okay, so the trades specifically never get out there and talk about themselves. They're usually hands-on people. They're really good at what they do. They may be great at running a business, but some of them flounder because they don't know how to get out there and say hello.
Okay.
So networking is about building relationships, not farming sales. So never go to an event thinking it's a failure because you didn't get a new lead, you get a new sale. You met 5 new people, 10 new people, it's a success. So I
Mm.
always tell my peoples in trades, and I hosted a podcast about this as well, about networking in the trades. But networking is about building relationships. The relationships are what leads to qualified referrals. And so, to my tradespeople out there, look up a local networking event, look at a local chamber, look at a local BNI chapter, look at whatever's going on at Eventbrite or Meetup, and get out there and go and get out of your comfort zone. Take a couple cards and just say, "Hello, my name's Bob, and I'm an electrician. Glad to meet you. What do you do? What do you do, Randolph?" To ask people like that, get out there and network, and it's cross platform, it's cross industry. uh People that are more successful are the ones that get out there and start building relationships. You can't just sit behind a computer and expect people to beg you for work. It's just not going to work.
And I like that you said that. So let me ask, do you have a because I heard you mention set asides and you're in contracting. So I'm
uh,
almost, do you have a capability statement?
I do have a capability statement. It's
All right.
buried
So
in a pile somewhere, but I do have one.
so this is a Tommy. So this is what I've learned. All right. So remember I mentioned Chris Voss to you, right?
Mhm.
But it's also another thing that I learned when it came to building relationships with people. It's called Ford: family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Ford, the car company, spells
Mhm.
out family, occupation, recreation, dream. So what I do is I go to those networking events like you're recommending. And what I do is I introduce myself. And the entire time I'm at this networking event, I'm asking people about their family, their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams. And then what happens is as they're talking, I mirror them. So people they talk, and then right when they finish what they're talking, what they just said, I might mirror the last 2 to 3 words, and then they talk for another 5 minutes. And then when I realize that they're running out of steam in the family category, or they're running out of steam in the occupation category, our recreation, our dream, that's when I hit them with it seems like, looks like, sounds like. And that's when they say, exactly, right? So I just built that relationship. But the reason why I said the capability statement, because when people practice what I just shared, what you'll soon realize is very rarely will anybody ever ask you anything about yourself. Right. But what happens is most people, they don't remember what you talked about. They just remember how you made them feel. And for about 15, 20 minutes, all you talked about was their family, their occupation and recreation and dreams. So this is what I do, Tommy. After we do that, I say, hey, is it not okay for me to send you my capability statement?
That's great. Yeah. That's great.
So now I got, so I'm emailing them. So now I got a reason to talk to them again. They never even, I might have mentioned very quickly because they asked what I do, but they probably already forgot what I do. But the fact that I made them feel good in the moment, and then I sent them that capability statement, now they know exactly what they do. So the next time somebody asks about trust, financial advising, life insurance, they're going to say, hey, I know a guy. All right. And you're a very busy man, Tommy. I'm going to ask you one last thing, and then I'm going to let you go. Do you not have any positive affirmations that you tell yourself?
I do. Trust and believe in yourself. It's okay to fail as long as you're failing forward. Learn from your mistakes. I tell myself that all the time. I made that mistake already. I won't do it again. And I've held true to that. So don't be afraid of failing. You're going to do it eventually. It's about how you pick yourself back up. And did you remember your lesson?
Absolutely. Because if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing nothing. People make mistakes, just fail forward. Like Tommy said, Tommy, please tell people if they wanted to work with such a powerful contractor such as yourself, how can they get in touch with you?
They can contact me at Tomco Solutions, TOMCO Solutions.com, or Tommy Whitehead, TOMMY, Whitehead, just like it sounds.com. I'm available on LinkedIn. You'll find me on websites. And I host my own podcast called Tommy's Toolbox, the podcast. It's available on Spotify and YouTube right now.
Absolutely. Tommy, I want to thank you for spending this time with me on the Entreprenudist Podcast. This is not going to be the last time you and I engage with each other. You've already invited me down to Tampa to check out what you got going on down there. So I'm going to be in touch with you and your team to try to get that scheduled. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you for being on the Entreprenudist Podcast.
The pleasure was all mine. It was an honor. Thank you, Randolph.
Yes, sir.